but maybe not the first, second, or third time you try to help somebody, you're going to see them again. And I just think that if we give up on people, they're going to give up on themselves.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt. Just want to let you know about something quick that can help you get better. That is Refuel IV. Whether you had a long week at work, maybe it's been long, it's been dragging, maybe you just need some recovery time from tough workouts you're putting yourself through. Hey, Refuel IV has you covered. And whether you need the IV drip therapy, maybe you need some chiropractic care, maybe you need to go take some time in that cold plunge or that sauna, they have you covered. So go check them out. You can see them here in La Follette or at refueliv.org. And don't forget to get those electrolytes. Strawberry Splash, my favorite flavor. I got 3 in my pantry. Helpful to help you be fueled well, refueled well, so you can serve others well. Refueliv.org. Welcome to the Getting Better podcast. Thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever you're doing, and always choosing to get better. With me, as always, who helps me get better, holds me accountable, and helps me have someone to talk to is Gage. What's up, man?
Yeah, when I respond, you always tell me I'm not a good texter.
He is the worst texter I know, to be honest.
But doing great. Basketball season starting. Of course, that means Jellicoe basketball, but also means Tennessee basketball. And I understand we have a pretty big Tennessee basketball fan here with us today.
Yeah, big Tennessee basketball fan. Just a wealth of knowledge in basketball, wrestling, and some other stuff we want to talk to you about today. Joe Herrell, thanks for joining, man.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
You like that? You like the applause?
So, thank you all very much for the invite. I can think of several other people that's probably more deserving to be here to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
No.
But I am honored to be here. Thank you.
No,
we're glad to have you, man.
Absolutely.
Seriously. I was glad to get to talk WWE wrestling with you before we started. It's been pretty cool.
We've talked back and forth. I wouldn't say we talk every week or anything like that, but like every time I've seen you, we just talked. I saw you here one day, the Philip Fulmer dinner, and I remember like the season we were doing some stuff together a couple of years ago, and it was a pleasure to get to know you more through that stuff. Before we get started, tell people who you are, what you do, your family and everything, in case they don't know you, they get to know you a little bit more.
So my name is Joe Herrell. I was born and raised here in La Follette, Tennessee. I graduated from Campbell County High School in 2001, long time ago.
No.
13 years ago, I married my wife, Rebecca. 10 years ago, we had a set of twins, Georgia and Gentry. And for the last 24, almost 25 years, I've been a volunteer firefighter here in our county. And then for the last 20 years, I have received a paycheck as a full-time job as either a paramedic or a fireman.
Wow, that's awesome. It's a lot of service.
As far as, so some of the stuff we want to talk about today is the first responder, the firefighter, the EMT, medic stuff. I think there's a lot I don't know. So if I speak out of turn or something, please tell me.
Okay.
But I want to, obviously your faith is a big part of your life, your family, and what you do. Can you give us a little bit of like, and we kind of been asking this question a little bit more as we've done this a little bit more, because I think one, it's encouraging to us, but also others who may listen, is your faith journey, however you want to phrase this, whenever your faith really became real to you, maybe when really God kind of showed himself to you, or really when maybe it clicked for you, if that makes sense. And I think there's different moments in life where that happens too, like you experience God more and more as you take steps, but maybe you got a moment or two of that. I think that is helpful for everybody.
So I think when I was junior, senior in high school, I was driving. I started going to a church on my own. I kind of left my family, and I just picked a random church in town and started going on Wednesday nights. I walked in, 16, 17. I don't think I was 18 yet. It was a really heavily involved older population there. There wasn't a lot of young people there. Started attending regular, started reading my Bible. I felt like around that time I got saved. I really honestly felt like that. And later in life, I can truly say that it did happen, because I remember the time and the moment, and I can get to that. I can remember several times in my early adulthood where like I would want something. I would apply for a job, or I would want those basketball tickets, or I'd want those football tickets. Like I feel like I was, oh, please God, make this happen for me. I wasn't asking him. I was always asking him for something and not thanking him for something is where I was at early on in my life. I was fortunate enough in 2011 that I met my wife by chance. It just, for years, I had kind of taught with the fire departments here in the county, and at the time my wife was running our county's domestic violence shelter, and I had been teaching domestic violence for a couple years and knew nothing about it. So I made a phone call one day. They offered to come send somebody from community health to do that. I was mowing yards at the time, and she needed her yard mowed, and a year later we got married.
Oh, that's awesome.
Never did get paid to mow the yard.
But worked out in the long run.
But at that time, like, I truly felt that God placed her in my life. It wasn't that I was doing anything wrong in life, but there was things I could be doing better, and she helped show me that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
We started trying to have our kids. You know, we were both around 30 when we got married. Had our careers out of the way. We both owned a home, so we decided that we wanted to have kids. So we started through that process, and we struggled a little bit, a lot of doctor's visits, and it came down to prayer. So my wife was born and raised at Stanfield Church of God in Stinking Creek, and I can think of several times where that church and those ladies would meet and pray over my wife.
It's awesome.
That is.
I can remember it went from asking him to do this and that for me to where I was thanking God for what he put into my life. I was thanking God for her. I was thanking God for my family. I was praying, let us get pregnant, let us have babies. Fast forward to June 8th, 2015, I had a healthy baby boy and a healthy baby girl born at Fort Sanders. We spent a few days in the hospital. We didn't have to do any NICU, any PICU time.
It's awesome.
My wife was healthy, but I have a moment that I want to share about June 8th. I can't remember the exact time they were born. She could probably tell you, but it's the minor details,
Yeah.
But I don't do nervous well. I can handle emergencies and never get, I guess, super anxious or anything because it's always not my emergency. Well, when it comes to my wife, if she's in pain or she's hurting or she's sick, it scares me to death. Like, it's just something about her, and she's all the time, she makes little comments about it. But that day, we went in to have our kids that morning, and the doctor delayed. Something happened, and they messed the schedule up. So it's supposed to be an 8 o'clock delivery time. Well, it got pushed to like 12 or 12:30. So I remember we're at Fort Sanders, and they put me in this holding room, and they said, we're going to take your wife back, and we're going to prep her for surgery. And I can remember probably for the first or second time in my life, I hit my knees in that waiting room, and I prayed for 20 minutes to protect my wife and to protect my kids. We had no indication that anything was going to go wrong, but I can honestly and truly say I shut my eyes. I laid my hand in a seat in that waiting room, or whatever you want to call that room, and I openly and out loud prayed until they came and got me, and just did not want anything to happen. The biggest day of my life besides getting married and a few other things, but all I could think about was to look over my wife and to my kids, because I had so much to look forward to in my future. Like, they are my future. At that point, everything I'd done in the past didn't matter. And that's the first or the second time. Like, I've probably done it a lot when I was younger, hoping for that new BB gun, or hoping I didn't get an F on my report card or something like that. But that is when my faith become real, is within that 9 months of us being pregnant, and then that day right there. And I still get a little nervous and had like anxiety talking about it, because it was a big day in my life.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And obviously, I have one 18-month-old, and situations aren't the same, so I don't want to say the exact, but like the feeling, the moments leading up to that is nervous, and I don't know. I'm with you with as far as I'm pretty chill about everything, but I'm more, I don't know, I don't want to use the word protective because I don't want to sound controlling or whatever, right. But I'm more aware of if I go out, if I was walking in downtown Knoxville by myself at 11 p.m. at night, I'd be aware. If my wife was with me at 11 p.m. at night, I would be on guard.
Absolutely. And
so there's something different to that. I'm sure Gage can relate to that some too. But is that and this is a question probably mainly for me, but like, you think is that I heard this quote one time, wherever you worry the most, you trust God the least. And I don't know if that's a control issue for me, or is that just I think it could be a good thing, but crossover can be a bad thing. Is that what I'm trying to explain? Of like, because like I understand, I'm not going to say I felt the same thing, but I don't want to say I probably felt a version of what you felt of like this is. I remember my wife had a C-section, so she went back and I was sitting by myself for an hour or so, and I'm just kind of like.
So that's exactly where I was at, and it could have been an hour. It felt it felt like an eternity, but probably one of the most scared and nervous that I have been in my whole life.
Yeah,
just because of the unknown.
Yeah,
you talk about walking in downtown Knoxville by yourself. If it's just me, like I'm looking at the sights, I'm looking around, I don't think a thing in the world. If I have Rebecca and the kids with me, I'm constantly on guard.
Yeah.
We went to New York fall break last year, and my kids are 10 years old. Holding hands are kind of a thing of the past,
Yeah.
Like, we'll do it, but it's not like walking down the sidewalk into here, I'm going to hold their hand. They know to stay away from traffic. They know the basics. Well, in New York City, they walk to the inside of us, and they never let us go the whole time because of that fear there. Something new, something odd, something off, and I was we spent 3 or 4 days there, and I was on guard and stressed the whole time. Subway and walking on the streets.
It stresses me out hearing you talk about that. I would be stressed.
The subway especially was super stressful for me.
And this is not on our agenda to talk about, but I think this is very good, because if it's helping me, maybe it's helping somebody else. Like you think that's I think if we didn't care, that'd be a big problem.
Right.
And to be honest, I probably lost sleep at night, probably caring too, maybe worrying. So I don't know where that line is necessarily. But I'm glad God has put something inside of me, at least, to be aware and care. And I don't know if that's just because I love my wife that much or what that is, but like it's totally different than anything I've experienced in the moments like that. So.
Rebecca tagged me on something on Facebook the other day about some kids grow up with Band-Aids and some kids grow up, do we need to cut it off? Like when they get hurt, and that's my kids. When they get hurt, I'm like, well, do you need a helicopter? Do you need to go to the hospital? Yeah. Like there's just no in between with me, just because of 20-something years, I've seen a lot of stuff. Now, if it was Rebecca, like we would be putting Band-Aids and stuff like that on it, but I'm a little rougher on my kids. I'm the last one to say, hey, let's go to the hospital or something like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's get into that a little bit, because first of all, I appreciate you sharing your story, and
Absolutely.
Of course, the moment your faith, well, not just the moment, but one moment that your faith became real for you. I appreciate that. Also, I appreciate your service as the firefighter, right? Emergency, services guy. We appreciate all that. I'm curious, how did you get into that? How did you get into firefighting? What made you want to do this emergency? Because when we're talking about being stressed out, I'm stressed out when I hear fire or when I hear the word emergency. So what made you get into that?
So when I was 16 or 17, I worked for your father-in-law, Benny Roberts.
I'm sorry.
I learned a lot of life lessons. I'm glad I did. So a guy by the name of Duran Carmody worked for him then, and Duran was a volunteer fireman, and we would come in of a morning, and Duran would have been out all night, and he would talk about it, and he got me super interested. Well, I had to wait till I was 18 to join the volunteer fire department. So when I was 18, Duran got me lined up, and I became a member of the La Follette Rescue Squad and the Campbell County Rural Fire Service. And so I guess how I got started was 9/11 had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
My 18th birthday was 3 days after 9/11. So that summer I worked with Duran. Mm-hmm. Then 9/11 happened, and just something drove me to it. Like I never had a desire or an urge to serve in the armed forces, but that was kind of a way it really drew my attention to what happened. You know, there was 343 firemen died that day. A lot of other people, I don't know the numbers or the statistics, but just those two things alone drove me to wanting to do that. And did I ever think it would be a career? Not at all. I thought that I would be just a hard working in a normal factory type job or a labor type job around. Like at that time, I had it on my mind I was going to work at Powell Clinch or Jacksboro Carroll Utilities, LaFollette Utilities, something like that. And I was just in the right place at the right time. And after the first or second call, I was convinced that I needed to do that for a career.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd say there's some interesting, and of course we can get into more of it here in a little bit, some interesting stuff that you've had to deal with and go through. But again, we appreciate, all of that. I mean, your services and all that, man, that's awesome. I mean, that's just awesome. But also, so in all this stuff, in the firefighting and the emergency medical stuff, how did your faith play a role in that?
So when I was younger, not a whole lot. I've heard people my whole life say, well, as you get older, you learn things. Things come to you. I used to think that my parents were like, oh, don't say that. That's not right. Like, I'm going to be cool my whole life. I don't care.
You're still cool.
Yeah, you are. I think so too.
I guess the I don't cares, when you're young, like I was young and dumb. I guess that would be a good thing. Never done anything super bad, but I'd done things, that I shouldn't be doing when I was younger. And as I've got older, around the time I met Rebecca, a lot of things in my life changed. I realized I was an adult. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to settle down. I come from a really good family. My dad is the hardest working man that I know. He is my idol. He is my role model. And a lot of things that I have done in my adult life, I have thought, is my dad going to be proud of me? So as I started working on the ambulance, after we had the kids, everything, I guess my faith got more serious because of our kids. Like, I seen how awesome that he was of giving me our kids, and they were healthy. He's gave me a good wife. He's gave me a home. He's gave me a really good job. So I started running these calls on the ambulance, and it's got progressively worse in the last several years. But we would encounter drugs and alcohol a lot. And I think when I was younger, I found myself being very judgmental. And that's not what I should have done. And I have a lot of regrets from the first 3 or 4 years in my career because I was young and I was dumb. And I had good role models in my life. And I had some of the very best friends that I'm going to keep to the day I die. But a lot of them was in the same situation as me. And as we've got older, I can think of sometime last year, we ran a call here locally. We were transporting the lady to the ER. And medically wise, wasn't a whole lot wrong with her. She had a lot of going on in her life. And she said, can you just pray with me? And I think, in 20-something years, that's probably only the third time I've ever been asked to do that. The first 2 times, I'm like, that ain't my job. Like, I'm here to take care of you or something like that. And I found myself shutting my eyes, lowering my head, and holding that lady's hand. And I just said a prayer for her. Was it the best prayer? Not at all. I have found myself over the last probably 5-6 years of when I find people like this, I'm trying to find resources locally that will help people. There's a lot of churches in this county that does a lot of things for a lot of people. If you're hungry, somebody's going to feed you. If you need somewhere to stay, most likely somebody's going to get you a place to stay or put you in the right direction. We have a lot of resources in the county for mental health. There's a program in the county right now for if a female is pregnant, they will do a lot if they're pregnant and they catch it early. And people don't know those resources. Yeah. So I've really tried to educate myself on what I can do besides just helping somebody medically, but going beyond that 911 call of trying to get them help that they need. And I wish that 22, 23-year-old Joe knew what the Joe knows now. I really wish I was that person then because I could have helped people a lot more because I was doing it full time then.
You shared with us, which I know you see people at their worst and a lot of times and in their worst situations, and you specifically mentioned, like addiction, for example. And I know I can't imagine the calls that come from that. You know what I mean? Whether it be overdoses or whatever. I can't imagine the calls. In our county, I know it's a really prevalent thing. And as somebody who has, who has family members that have had to have those calls, had to be taken in those calls, knowing that there's a guy, and I know, you said you wish you would have done it 20 years ago, but knowing that there's a guy or people that do what you do on those calls, whether it's praying or just finding the resources for people and letting them know. I don't know. I just want to encourage you on that, man, because that's awesome. And, I appreciate that for everybody who has family members that are addicts that's ever had to have a call like that. I appreciate that. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that.
There are numerous people that works here in our county that do a lot better job at that than I do. I've been fortunate for the last couple of years. I've been able to be an educator here in the county, and I've tried to bring these resources to our first responders. So the more people that knows how to help someone, the better. So I think if we can talk to 10, those 10 turns into 10, and before we know it, like, it's a huge outreach by just a simple 20-minute conversation or a business card or a pamphlet or something like that's on that board right there. It goes a long ways.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Do you find, like, me and Gage talk about purpose a lot. I think people search for meaning in life and things. Do you find maybe like a sense of purpose now doing what you do? Because, maybe you did before really your faith kicked in, or do you find maybe a sense of purpose more in it now since you're incorporating your faith in it a little bit more?
Definitely now. Yeah. I think when I was younger, it was cool.
Yeah.
My buddies done it. Like, the guys I worked with were the guys and the gals I worked with were the guys and the gals I hung out with on my off days. Like Guitar Hero, watching races, watching football, stuff like that. Now, I feel like I'm a lot more invested because I think what I'm doing now maybe can benefit my kids in 10 years, can benefit your kids. In 10 more years, I'm going to be in my 50s. What's my physical shape going to be like? Am I going to be able to work on an ambulance? So being able to educate and share that now, maybe that can bring that forward and to the next generation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so in these tough situations, in these hard times, are you reminding yourself of that? As you know what I'm saying, as you're going to these calls where you're like, oh crap, this is a terrible situation. Are you reminding yourself of that purpose, that calling?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
So I'm a pre-planner. I don't like to go into anything blind. So let's say you call 911 and you say, I stubbed my finger. Okay. So we go en route. We go get in the truck, whether it be a fire truck or it be an ambulance. And on the way there, I am playing out every scenario possible in my head, because there's been numerous times to where it's been a stumped finger and we get there and it be a truly major medical emergency. So I always pregame for the worst because I do not want to walk into something unprepared. If I'm unprepared, I'm already behind. I like to say time is money, time is health. So if I'm delayed on taking care of somebody, a lot of things can be delayed, and life could actually, it could end based on slower actions. So once I get there and I get everything, I guess, under control or a controlled situation, it's like a light switch flips. And once I realize it's not a major medical emergency and I have time, and I can run, out of 10 calls, I can run 9 calls to where I just talk to somebody. I tell students all the time that 75% of our job in pre-hospital, whether it be a fireman or an EMT or a paramedic, is we're kind of like a therapist. You said earlier, we're seeing people on their worst day. Very, very seldomly are we finding somebody on their best day. Hey, let's call an ambulance or a fire truck and see what they're doing today, right? Yeah. So I talk to people, and I like to find out people, especially elderly people. I love to talk about their history, how they've grew up. And it could be their worst day that they're coming from the hospital here at La Follette being taken to Knoxville for a heart cath, for a major medical emergency. And that 45 minutes to an hour that I spend with somebody just talking, it relaxes them. It has some calm to them. They're not in the ER hearing the beeping. There's not blood being drawn. I just have an EKG on them. I might have some IVs or some different medications flowing. But other than that, we just talk. And there's been numerous people, hey, will you say a prayer for me? And I always try to take that minute or that 30 seconds or that 10 seconds, whenever it is, and I always like to give them just a little bit more comfort. Do I do it every time? Not at all. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of people that work in this region that are doing a whole lot more than I am when it comes to faith and taking care of people.
That's awesome, man. We need people that do that, so thank you for sharing that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I think you got to have what's beautiful about what you do. You do see people on their worst days, and I think there's a major opportunity. But what is really admirable is your faith kind of shines where you're at. And I think a lot of times we can compartmentalize sometimes our faith. Like I have it at home or I have it here, but I don't always have it if I'm at my job or if I'm coaching basketball or for whatever. And I think that's you're letting your faith bleed in to what you do. Yeah. And as far as all that goes, have you maybe serving people like this and seeing people like this, do you think it kind of helps remind you of God's heart for people when you see people in maybe these kind of manners?
Absolutely. I think that addiction of any kind, it's in most families, right?
100%.
Whether, regardless of what your economic status is, we are affected by it. And when I was younger, I said earlier, I found myself very judgmental. And I think of all the things in my life that I have done wrong and that God has forgiven me for. You know, the most forgiven person ever, right? We do something wrong every day. Like, it's a constant struggle to do the right thing, it seems like sometimes. And you can pray about it and you wake up the next day and you've been forgiven. And I often remind people of that just because they have addiction today doesn't mean we can't start tomorrow with a new day. A lot of people in the area thinks just because they have addiction that there's nobody that wants to help them. And we have so many resources to help those people. And there are statistics that prove, and I would not even begin to guess what they are, but maybe not the first, second, or third time you try to help somebody, you're going to see them again. And I just think that if we give up on people, they're going to give up on themselves. And I know with the coffee shop here that you all have seen a lot of stuff. With the stuff in Jellicoe, you've seen a lot of stuff. Just the churches in general in the area, they're open to welcoming these people in, and you may not see them for a year, and they come back and they're trying to get their life right. Yeah. It's not a one and done. Keep praying, keep asking for forgiveness, and there's going to be people, hopefully, that's going to receive somebody with open arms and come back. And that's been a huge thing with me. And I kind of mentioned that with Gunner in a little messaging session the other day. Is that's one of the big things I wished I knew when I was younger. Is I think about a lot of the people that, you know, they would talk about an addiction, and I know that I was making some kind of face or something like that. I was just a young kid and I didn't know better. And now I really, really try to educate anybody that I'm standing in front of and I'm teaching that's going to listen. I tell people, when you walk into somebody's home or you walk into a business, you treat that person like they're your grandmother or they're your grandfather, or your most favorite person on earth. And once I started treating everybody like I wanted my grandmother to be treated, I can only think of a few times in the last several years where I've had to be rude or ugly with somebody, and it's just because the situation warranted that. Sure. Like, you can't always be nice.
Right, for sure.
But, and I tell people that, and like I honey people, I baby people, I rub their hand, I give them hugs, just because that's what I did to my mama, and that's what I wanted people doing to my mama in her final few weeks before she passed away. Is the people at the nursing home up here at La Follette took so good care of her. They loved her, and I want to love everybody that I encounter. I don't know. I'm just super passionate about it. So,
I think a great lesson that you just brought out was, it's like, hey, God didn't give up on me. He didn't give up on you. He didn't give up on you. And we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't give up on other people either. And I think that's great. I know it's easy to do sometimes because in your line of work where you're seeing the same things over and over, it would be easy to quit. It'd be easy to give up. But just the thought process that you just said was, hey, God didn't give up on me. He forgave the worst in me, and it's the same thing we got to do to other people. That's awesome. I do have a question. I'm curious. Is there, again, a lot of bad situations, a lot of difficult things. Can you think of a moment maybe or a time where your faith helped you maybe get through a time where you wanted to stop, where he's like, hey, I've had enough of this emergency stuff. I've had enough of this firefighting stuff. Have you ever had a moment like that, or have you been pretty consistent in what you wanted to do?
So I have been very fortunate in my career that I could see a lot of bad things and I could recover from it just fine. I had friends, we dealt with things, Guitar Hero, Call of Duty. Coffee shops wasn't cool back then, but like we got through it, and we got through it with each other. And my tight-knit group of friends, I can just think for the most part, we have always managed mental health using each other. I've seen numerous calls to where I will never forget them to the day I die. Like I can still play them out in my head. But I've been super fortunate that I've never had a nightmare about it. That's awesome. I've just super fortunate. There's not a lot of people that can say that now. And I told Gunner that that's something that I would like to talk about on this episode with me is it's okay not to be okay. Like early in my career, if you showed weakness, or you showed remorse, or you showed emotion or feelings, it was kind of, the older guys kind of picked at you a little bit. It wasn't cool to cry.
Yeah.
Right. And now PTSD, first responder suicide, it is huge. It's huge. And there are so many resources. And where my full-time job is, we're putting together a mental health team for our employees.
Awesome.
Because, and we're trying to do a couple on every shift, because what's the likelihood of you being at work and something bad happening and you needing to talk to somebody? Whether it be a family member, like anything, we want a resource there so they can talk to somebody. In my full-time department, we've seen a whole lot of death and misfortunes with family members in the 17 years that I've been there. And I think, hey, we can do that right there. But you asked the question about a call or something, and it's never been a call, but in 2020, my little brother passed away. It was an addiction problem. And a lot of people, they think of my dad and they think of my mom as being Jennifer. Jennifer's my stepmom, been around me my whole life, but it was my real mom's son. Battled addiction for years. And I kind of think that I was judgy with my brother. And I had a whole lot of regrets. And around 2019, I got a swift kick in the rear, and God talked to me one morning, and I got saved again. So from that day forward, I really started trying to live the life that I should have been living for years. And I'm not perfect, and I don't do it every day, but I realized that disconnect with my little brother. He was 8 years younger than me, and I was talking to him, and I was calling him, and I was texting him, and I was begging to, hey man, let me help you. Let me get you into a rehab. Let me come pick you up. Springs of Life. I sent him some stuff on it.
What was that swift kick in the rear, if you don't mind me asking?
I just needed it. I just needed it. I just wasn't in the right headspace, and I realized that I really don't know, Gunner. Like, I think there was a lot of things that was going on, but something just clicked that I needed to be a better person in life. Okay. So I had my little brother lined up to go to rehab, and we got a call a day or two later that they found him dead, that he had overdosed. And the biggest thing about that is when they rolled him over, he was laying on a box of Narcan. You know, Narcan is a fix for an opioid overdose. There was a lot of people that was in the house that he was in. They rummaged through his pockets. Nobody called 911, right? So I think that it was during COVID. Funeral homes wasn't doing funerals. So we did a celebration of life in Clinton. And at that time, I was not a public speaker. Like, I was the guy in the back of the room hiding his face, not wanting to be called on. And God laid something on my heart that day. And all of my brother's friends that were suffering addiction, just like he was, were there. And I got up and I stood up. And for 10 minutes, I talked about how good God was and how forgiving God was, and that everybody standing in that crowd that day could give their life to God and better themselves. And like, I'll never forget it. It was a blur. I was nervous. I was shaky, but it was on my heart to say that, and I said it. Fast forward a couple years later, my mom got lung cancer and she passed away. Very short battle, 3 months there. And then a couple years ago, my grandmother, she was the light of my life. My wife would tell a lot of people that she was the apple on the tree for me, or whatever that saying is. But when I lost my grandmother, it affected me more than any 20 years worth of calls I've ever ran in my life. And I think it was accumulation of my brother, my mom, my little dog died in there too. And then my grandmother, and I had a pretty rough time with that. Like, I had never had grief like I had grief. Like, everything in my life was going great. I'd got a promotion at work. My kids were thriving. My wife was thriving. Everything was going right, but I didn't feel like I was complete, like something was missing. And during my little brother, I never asked why. I just thanked him that there was no suffering. With my mom, I didn't beg for more time, right? You know, her whole thing is she wanted to make it to my kid's birthday, and that's June. She died in March, and I really felt like we struggled the last few days, and she was just trying to hold on, and it just took me telling Mom, hey, just go. Like, just go home. Like, just go home, you know? And that's what I was talking about with Troy's story is it, I just can't bring myself to watching it because I went through a lot of that. Yeah. But I never was upset. I never asked why. It was always, thank you for giving me the time that I had. Thank you for giving me the time that I had. And then,
which is amazing. First off, I just want to say that.
When my mama got sick, I mean, she was 93. Yeah. Well, she was 92 when we found out, and then she was 93 when she died. But I got the call. I was in San Diego, and I can't remember who called. It's either my wife or my dad called, and like, hey, you know, they're not expecting your mama to live, and instantly went into panic, trying to find a way home from San Diego. It just wasn't possible. Next day. And I can remember that last night in the hotel room, like, again, I hit my knees, and I begged God to keep her alive till I got home. And I remember I made it home. The whole ride is 5.5 hour flight. And the whole way, I was praying that I didn't get the phone call when I landed that she had died, right? So I got home, came straight from the airport up to see Mama, and it wasn't as bad as they initially thought, but it was near, you know. So over the next 3 weeks, I spent every moment that I could spend with her. You know, I was there early in the morning. I was there late at night. And I can remember numerous times. And the last week or so, you know, she was heavily medicated, and I would just sit and talk to her. And I would tell her how thankful I was of her, of showing me all the things that she showed me as a kid. She single-handedly made me the person that I am. And it's still hard to talk about. But, and again, just like with my mom, you know, I told her that, and it wasn't just me she was hanging on for, like plenty of kids, plenty of grandkids. But I told her, like, it's time to go be with my granddad. You know, she outlived him. He died in 97 and she died in 2024. So she outlived him a long time. And, I could think of 3 or 4 times where I would just hold her hand and tell her I loved her, and so thankful for her. So thankful.
I think losing somebody close to you. I lost a couple of grandparents past 5 years or so, and I'm not, like I said earlier, no two situations are the same. So I'm not trying to compare and all that. I did ask questions why, and I struggled with it. My papa was the first person I think close to me I lost. That was 2020 and January, and I lose a lot of sleep, don't know. And I think the question why is with some of that stuff you'll never know. But how did you go through I don't know, managing that, coping with that? I think loss is tough, and I think especially, and you had all that, and you said it kind of built up over time, and so on that side of it, what are your steps? Because I think some people, when they go through really hard stuff like that, mental health, and my mental health at the time struggled, I would say, and some people run towards God, some people run away from God, and shortly after, do you keep yourself busy? I've seen people do that. Like, what was your go-to as far as that goes?
Absolutely. I decided during this time that I wanted to get a bachelor's degree, right? So, not that my wife's schedule and my kids' schedule are not busy enough, but between going to school, started working at Rome State, doing some education stuff for them. I was working on the ambulance here in the county. I was working my job, and I found every chance I had to fill my time and fill my void, I was doing that. And for a year, I was not the same for a year. And even some of the closest people that I worked with never seen it. And
is it a numbness, or is it? I'm not trying to be like a psychologist here. I'm just trying to
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'd never experienced anything like that before, and I didn't know how to do it for close to 25 years. We are expected to be the ones that don't have emotion, that don't have the stress. And
what do you mean by we? Just to clarify.
We as first responders.
Okay.
We're just, it's just your job, right? It's just part of the job. And nurses are the same way. Anybody that's in healthcare is the same way. And I don't want to discredit anybody's profession. But it's just part of your job. And I think, I've handled that so well. When my mom passed away, like, it hurt, but the hurt went away because I could go see my mama, right? I could go see my dad. I could go see my stepmom. I had my wife. I had my kids. And my mama, like, I just don't know how to explain her, but she was always, even those first years, I think, on a bad day, I could call my mama and everything would be better, Everything was always better at Mama's house.
Yeah, absolutely.
A bologna sandwich and a Diet Coke always went a long ways. And even as I got older, like, she always kind of soothed that for me. And I've got 2 cousins that are my age, and Mama was that lady for us. And I've talked to both of them, and they've, it was a rough year for them too. But I've got some really good friends that are not brothers, but they're brothers not by blood, but by everything we've been through in life. And I remember I was coming back from a ball game, and it was myself and Daniel Lawson, and I just broke down. And Rebecca had seen it, but she didn't know. Like, I hid it, you know. And I think after I told Daniel, I felt better a little bit. And fortunately, I found the right person to talk to. And I was told it's okay not to be okay, to tell people what I'm feeling, talk about what's going on. And
is that the first time you heard that?
Yes and no.
And believed it? And
believed it, yeah. Because I felt like a little bit of pressure was relieved when I told Daniel. There's 4 guys in the group that I work with at work, and like, we're tight. I mean, they know a lot of things that's going on, and they didn't know. And a couple of them will probably hear it the first time when they listen to this, just because there's a work face, there's a home face, and there's a to and from work face. And never in my life would I just be driving down the road and I would hear, like, I'd be listening to K-Love or something like that, or listen to a podcast, and I would just cry. Like, there was a lot of times that I pulled over on the side of the road because it's just what I needed to do. And I'm going to mention it again. Troy Arnold talking about his dad, just the little intro clip that y'all put on social media, I was crying. And I can't bring myself to watching it because it's only a matter of time till I have to go through that with my dad, and I'm not ready for that. And but out of all of this, I've never asked why. I've always been thankful for the time that I had. And I've been most thankful that my kids have got to experience this. Like, my kids got to experience my grandmother like I got to experience my grandmother, and it was great. Like, my kids' eyes would get as happy as mine would when I'd see her, and they would see her. And that is what I'm so thankful for, so thankful. I'm thankful that my wife got to enjoy my grandmother. I was always afraid that, and she would always say, I'm going to die before you get married. And she told me numerous times how thankful she was that I had found Rebecca. And I'm super thankful too, because she treated, Rebecca was there for my mom, and she was there for my mama, just like she'd been around them her whole life. And but faith, prayer.
What did your faith and prayer and all that look like during those kind of moments?
It's always been strong, because instead of dwelling on the bad, I was thankful for all the years that I did have. Would I've liked to have more? Absolutely. I mean, I wish my grandmother was still here today. I wish my mom was still here today, and the same with my little brother, even my little dog. But it was rough. Like, it's still rough. This is the first time I've openly talked about it in a long time, and I do want people to know that even on your worst day, there is positive things to that worst day. There's always something positive that's going to come out of it. It may not seem like it right then, but instead of asking why or blaming, being thankful and being blessed and always finding something positive, like, it helped it. And there was some days that I didn't feel like that was possible.
Sure.
Yeah. Dude, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's just of course, it's a lot of deep, heavy, emotional stuff, man, and we appreciate you sharing that. We all carry some sort of emotional weight, I think, but it's just from the outside looking in, seems like, people in the medical field or emergency responders almost carry it. They're carrying it for a long time. You know what I mean? You said you done 25 years. That's a lot of other people's weights to carry. You know what I'm saying? And so then when something happens, and the same thing for everybody else too. I don't know. I could see how that could totally change the game. You know what I mean? After all that weight that you carry for so long. And I think what you said, that it's okay to not be okay, is super important. And I think I needed to hear that, and I think somebody watching or listening is probably going to need to hear that too, man. That it's actually it is okay to not be okay. So thank you for sharing that.
I think it shows a lot of spiritual maturity that you were thankful and not bitter.
It would have been very easy, very, very easy to have lost faith.
Yeah.
But I also think that my wife and my kids and my parents and that my family that I have is, even though it was a terrible side, I always had somebody there uplifting me to make me better. It's unbelievable. You're not, especially when you're younger, you're not appreciative or you're not thankful of the people that are around you a lot of times. You're thankful for your buddies, but you're not thankful, for your mom and dad. You're not thankful for your grandparents. And I think at one point in my life, I felt like that. And God given me a thoughtful wife has helped me more than anything at all. I have said it numerous times that my wife saved my life. And it's not that I was doing anything bad, but in the line of work that we do, there's always a chance when we leave we might not get to come home. And that kind of sounds cliche, and you see it on stuff a lot. But the fact of the matter is whether it's working a wreck on the side of the interstate or walking into somebody's home and they're not expecting you, or you going in a fire, there's always that chance of that you might not come back home. And just the faith and the thoughtfulness and being right and being good and knowing where you're going to be for if something does happen, that is what I wished I had known when I was young. Because now I know for sure if something happens to me, where I'm going to go, I'm going to be reunited with all the family that I've talked about losing, and I'm going to get to see my wife and my kids and my dad again and my brothers again one day.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel better. I'm not scared. I don't want to, but I'm not scared to either. So
keeping a eternal perspective is, I think it's crucial to life, because no matter who's in office, no matter what's going on, no matter what you face, Francis Chan had an illustration where he had this long rope that would go from like here to across the street, right? And like he had a little piece of red tape, and he's like, this is our day-to-day, this is your life on earth, and this is eternity, and what do you want to live for, Yeah. And I think we get so caught up on that little piece of red tape on the piece of rope, and remembering that this is not our home is hard and difficult when you got bills and work and whatever else, right? And but I think you do a great job of remembering that and living that, and I think that's awesome. Do you have any, maybe, I don't know if this phrasing makes sense, but maybe God moments where you kind of see God show up, maybe whether that's in work or maybe dealing with different things with family, or back in the EMT trucks or firefighting, where you're like, wow, I experienced God's goodness in this situation.
More times than I can count.
That's the best answer ever.
It's been probably earlier this spring this year. I was sitting at home one night. I'd worked on the ambulance that day, and usually on Fridays while Rebecca and the kids are at work, I'm always working somewhere, piddling here, piddling there, and I had worked on the ambulance that day, and I had went home, and it was about 10 o'clock, and the ER up here called my phone. And I thought, well, that's weird. What's going on? And at the time, there was only 2 of us here in Campbell County that could transport somebody to Knoxville on a ventilator. They refer to it as a vent patient. Typically, when there is a vent call, that's when Lifestar comes to the hospital and gets somebody, right? So the weather and the fog, it was not favorable conditions for a helicopter, and this person really needed to go to Knoxville. We had something early the next day with the kids, and I'm like, I'm off. Nah. And I heard, hold on a second. Well, somebody came on the phone and they said, hey, Joe, this is such and such. You know this person. And I'm like, tell me more. I'm intrigued at this point. They should have led with that because it would have made me seem like a bad guy, So I found out that it was a family friend, right? It was a family friend's parent. No questions. Got up, threw my clothes on. I met a crew up here, and every indication that night was there's a really good chance that she would not make it till Knoxville, from La Follette to Knoxville. Terrible situation because I knew the family, like they were there when I came in.
Are those situations more difficult or easier? I don't know if easier is a good word.
Yes.
Difficult?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if I've never met you and I don't know you and something happens, like it stinks, but I know that I've done everything that I can do, but I may never have to face you or see you again.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a good chance that if I see you at Walmart or Food City, you're not going to recognize me.
Right. Yeah.
If I know somebody, I'm going to have to see them. Like I just seen them this past weekend, spent 4 hours with them.
Yeah.
And we see them often. So we made it to UT. She was fortunately still alive. I can remember on the way over, there was somebody else that had rode with me because it was such a critical call. And I remember shutting my eyes somewhere in between Raccoon Valley and Emory and just saying a little prayer. We got her to UT and we took her up on the floor into the unit, one of the CCICUs or something of that nature, and the family beat us there, right? I know every one of them. We've been around them for years. And as we moved her over, me and the guy that I was working with, we both said a little prayer for her. We talked to the nursing staff and we left. Well, as we come out, they were in the waiting room. There's 12, 13 of them. And everybody was thanking us and this and that. And then I got asked the question, what's your opinion? And what do you say? Do you want to give someone false hope? Do you want to shoot them straight? Or do you want to say, I don't know? And what I have learned in many, many years is I'm never going to give someone false hope because that hurts worse than being honest with them.
Oh, gosh.
And that's one of the hardest things still to this day I have to do is tell someone they've lost a loved one. I mean, it never gets easy. So, they were not expecting this person that I'm talking about to make it through the night. She made it through the week. She made it through 2 weeks. They discharged her. They told her that she had a huge mass, what appeared to be cancerous, in her chest. They sent her home. She came back 7 days later for another imaging, and it was gone, and no trace was ever there.
Praise the Lord for that.
That was amazing.
Yep. And I could tell numerous stories like that one, but that one probably hit the closest to home.
Absolutely.
I seen her Saturday, and she came up to me and hugged me.
That's awesome.
The patient. It's crazy. And I go back to telling someone that they've lost a loved one. I've done it everywhere from Norris Lake to the mountains up here, somebody ATVing, to a pig pen, a goat pen. Like, if you can think of it, I've had the unfortunate privilege of telling someone they've lost a loved one. And studies now show it's better just to say, hey, they are dead. We are so sorry, instead of trying to beat around the bush and tell them. And it doesn't get any easier. And I rehearse it all the time.
Oh, man.
And it does not get easier.
Yeah, man. I honestly, I really can't even imagine that. And so, but I mean, what you do, not just you, but I mean, everybody in your line of work, man, it's, I don't know. They're so needed, and obviously, and so, such a pivotal role they play, right? Whether it's informing people they've lost somebody or even getting to be with them, like the story you just shared, right afterwards, and which I know they're close to you, which is great. How those things, gosh, the good, like you just shared, the bad. Can you talk to us maybe just for a minute about how that affects your faith? I mean, because in my head I'm thinking all these, that's got to be hard, man. That's got to be hard.
That's hard to answer. I can think of over the years being at family gatherings and people talking about different stuff, and I show zero emotion about stuff. Like, stuff like that doesn't bother me, fortunately. I have made it a goal from day one to show up and do the best I can do and go home, right? There's been a few calls over the years. Very early on, breakfast time, I was working in Anderson County, ran a call for just an elderly male down or something like that. And we get there, and it was an elderly man in his mid-90s. His wife was a year younger than him, and they'd been married since they were 16 years old. And seeing the hurt on that wife's face, I was young, like I was really young. Probably one of the first times that it ever affected me more than I think I can just blow it off, or I don't want to talk about it, or I took it home with me. Because, like, I pictured my grandparents, I would think, like, in your 90s, you know it's coming, right? Yeah. Like, we're to the end of life. And you would have thought that she had no clue that it was going to happen, that she was making him breakfast. He had a major cardiac emergency, and he passed away before we arrived. But the hurt, and I'll never forget it, it ain't the squeal in her voice, but just the eek, her screaming out, begging God to bring him back, all that stuff. And here I am, 22, 23 years old. Never in my life did I ever want to get married or anything like that. And I'm experiencing something like this. And there was some faith. I guess there was some faith question then of why? Like, why did it have to happen that way or something like that? There's things that we experience as first responders that people like to poke and prod and want to talk about. There's things that I have been unfortunate enough to run that did not have a good outcome that I never want to speak about, just because it was a terrible thing. Yeah. And faith, early days, I wished it was as strong as it was now, because I think that I could have been a better human, a better provider, and just a better overall person. And that's what I'm really, really trying to do with the younger generation that I've been fortunate enough to be put in the position to teach. And I want them to know that it's okay to be nice to people. It's okay to be helpful. It's okay to pray with people. It's okay to offer a resource, a help, or something like that. It's not that everyone is a number per se. And living in a small town, in a community, you're going to see people over and over and over again sometimes. Yeah. So,
yeah, well, man, thank you to you. Thank you to all first responders. And then, if anybody's listening or watching, we just appreciate you.
Yeah, and the way you live your life, the way you, not just that you do the job, but that you do the job leading with your faith. Yeah. I know you said you wish you would have done it earlier, but now you're instilling that in other people, and leading people that way, and you're casting a wider difference than you probably will ever know.
Yeah.
And thanks for being on here to encourage us and things too, and one, informing us on areas that not experienced in, but two, just hearing your story and hearing how your faith is so intertwined in your job, but also your life is just encouraging to us. But we'll close out here so you can get back home.
Thank you.
We do ask one question at the end of every podcast we record, because we are trying to get better and grow. So do you have one area maybe you're currently trying or currently wanting to grow and get better as far as your life, maybe even your faith goes?
I'd mentioned earlier about my dad being my role model, my number one. And I always kind of question myself, am I being the dad that I had? Am I taking the time to do this with them? Because you all know as much as I know, life is busy. Mm-hmm. And it seems like a lot of times we don't have time for this and that. And I'm trying to make sure every day that I hug my kids and I kiss my kids some way. Not just tucking them in of a night or telling them good night. Like when I see them the first time of the day, I'm trying to set that electronic aside to lay in the bed and watch my little girl play her iPad, or watch my little boy play something on his iPad or his Xbox, or just talk to him about one of his, I want to be a YouTube heroes. That's what I want to be. I want to be a better dad. I want to be the best dad. I want to be the dad that I had growing up. And when they're my age, sitting on a couch like this talking about their dad, like I want them to share, like, my dad was a positive role model. He taught me this. He taught me that. It's not all about what I can buy them. It's about what I can teach them. But yes, I want to get better at being a dad. I want to get better as being a leader to my kids.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. And I'm with you there. But also, I heard Craig Rochelle, I think, say one time a lot of stuff of parenting is, I think a lot of stuff is taught, but a lot of it's caught, not taught. And I'm absolutely positive that they're catching a lot of good stuff from you. Just seeing it.
I hope
Sure.
so.
For sure.
I hope
Just
so.
seeing it. Well, thank you so much, man. We'll let you go. Gage, thank you. And thank you, everyone listening and watching. Of course, like, subscribe, and share. Not because we need the channel to grow, because we want people to grow, because we want people to get better. We want people to know God, and we want people to experience freedom and grow in their faith and grow in the grace and the knowledge of Jesus, and so they can just ultimately know God more and make a difference, find freedom, and experience all that God has for them. And I believe we grow so much with each other through conversations like this. So thank you, Joe, one more time. And until next time, everybody, keep on getting better.